members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very happy to be welcoming you this morning at the Alliance Francaise for this press conference on the launch of the Garifuna Heritage Foundation Theatre Production, Mali. As part of its annual program for 2019, and following the successful implementation of its program of events for National Heroes and Heritage Month, the Garifuna Heritage Foundation, known as TGHF, is proud to present to the media and the general public with the theatre production, Mali. This production was written by Zoila Ellis-Brown and is directed by David Darky Williams, President of the Garifuna Heritage Foundation. It is a partnership with Agape Dramatists, and Mr. Kevin Rodriguez, present today, is the director of Agape Dramatists, and he is the production manager of the play. The play will be held on Saturday, May 4th and Sunday, May 5th at the Peace Memorial Hall, commencing each night at 7:30. The entrance fee is 25 EC for adults and 15 EC for children, and tickets are limited, so we encourage you to get your tickets soon. They are available at Medix Pharmacy, Lady J at the Peace Memorial Hall, or you can as well call the office of TGHF 456-2124 during work hours of 8:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. I'm going to invite Mr. David Darky Williams to give us some words on the play.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning once again to the members of the press and other visitors, if there's any. The play Mali, I think, is the first play that will be done in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that is based on I would say, an ongoing Garifuna practice. The Garifuna people, as part of their spirituality and their religious practices, has a ceremony that is known as the Dugu. Dugu is spelled D-U-G-U. It is a 7-day ceremony, and it involves family. There is hardly any space in a Dugu for non-relatives or non-blood relatives. The Dugu lasts for 7 days, and at one point in a Dugu ceremony, there is that segment that is called Mali, from which this play gets its name, Mali. The play tells the story of a family that over 3 generations went through and it was beginning to become a perpetual cycle in that family. Went through these unfortunate circumstances, and generation after generation, almost the identical thing takes place. And because the Dugu is in part a ceremony that encompasses healing, the family goes through eventually this healing during the process of a Dugu. Now, to speak about the environment of Adugu, it is very close to what we know in St. Vincent as the spiritual Baptist form of religion. The play, apart from the story of the family, utilizes a lot of music, poetry, some dance, and of course dialogue, which carries the story. And all of the music and the poetry and everything like that is original. And I think that is another important feature about this production. It is not very often that you get productions in St. Vincent that features original music. All the lyrics of this production that you will hear was composed by the writer, and the melodies and rhythms were created by the Resistance Heartbeat drummers who would be accompanying us musically, and melodies were created by Mr. Ronald Brown, or as we know him in the Calypso arena, Ron B. The Dugu ceremony is a mixture of moods, and Mali would highlight a lot of these moods. The predominant, or I'd rather say the dominant moods in the Dugu celebration is one of a more somber kind of feeling at one point, and then there is the celebratory kind of mood at another point. So imagine 7 days of spiritual expressions that is in parts very somber and in part very celebratory. That is what you will get from the presentation. Mali, using the different art forms that I have mentioned previously, music, drama, dance, and of course the rhythms of the drum. I think that kind of sums up what Mali is about in terms of content. The other aspects of the presentation, if it has stirred your imagination sufficiently, when we come to question time, we will get maybe some more intimate details into the presentation. For now, thank you.
Thank you very much, Daki, and I would like also to add that what is really good opportunity with attending this play also is that you get a little step in what is a Dugu ceremony, because it's something that is quite sacred and that people don't really have access to. So it's just having a notion of the Dugu and of the sacredity of the ceremony. And I would like now to invite Mr. Kevin Rodriguez, who's the production manager of the play. Give us some
forget the part that says handsome, right? Just kidding. Yes, so, you know, it's interesting to be working along with the TGHF on this production, and the composition of the persons involved. We have one of the leading theatre practitioners in St. Vincent and the Grenadines directing this play, in the person of Mr. David Daki Williams. It's the first time I'm working along with him in a particular production, so this is something historic for me. You know, seeing a legend at work directing a masterpiece. Also, we have members from the Agape Methodist Dramatists. As you know, Agape is one of the leading theatre companies in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we have just celebrated 20 years in the creative industry. And it's a group that have traveled extensively throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Every corner, every hole, I believe that Agape have touched down. We recently traveled to Grenada and also St. Lucia, and preparing ourselves also to get into the international market to take a piece of the Vinci experience overseas. Also, we have the Resistant Drummers, which is one of the drumming groups in St. Vincent and Grenadines that is very active in terms of keeping the Garifuna rhythm and the drum culture itself alive. And we have a pretty interesting cast, a chorus that is a combination of different persons that are involved in the creative industry here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. It's an honor being the production manager for this particular production. For me too, it's been a learning experience to get to know a bit more about the Garifuna experience. You know, I've learned so much just being involved with this particular production. Also, I really want to say thank you to one of our partners who have signed on to in the producing of this event, the New Haven Funeral Home. All right, it's an interesting partnership, and we always want to say thank you to the corporate partners that have come on board to basically support something that is local. And as you know, one of the ways you know, we fund theatre productions is basically by ticket sales, of course, but it's much easier when you have persons in corporate St. Vincent when they sign on to cut some of the overhead expenses that we would have on producing this particular event. So, as would have been mentioned, the date for the play is on the 4th and the 5th of May at the Peace Memorial Hall. Tickets are available at Medics Pharmacy, Lady J, and also at Peacemo, and you can call the Garifuna Foundation office. And of course, any member of the cast will have tickets too for this particular production. So definitely we're going to have a great one coming the first weekend in May. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks.
Thank you very much for being present this morning. And if you have any question regarding the play, like you said, it's really nice that you have a staff member most of us, and so this is still related to ancestors.
Tom, how does this fit in or relate or differ from mainstream religious practices with faith, belief, and the story of Jesus?
Okay. Well, most, if not all, religious practices in our part of the world is centered around Christianity. I think that is understood. The Garifuna practices follows the identical path of the Christian religious worship, except that area of healing, because Dugu is organized as part of a process of healing within the family, and that healing could be from physical sickness, mental sickness, or just maybe ongoing discord within the family, and people think it is okay to organize a Dugu, then that will take place. And because Mali is actually a part of the Dugu, is actually a segment in the Dugu, and like I said earlier, that's where the play gets its name from. And the conclusion, if I may say that, if I may let that out a little bit, the conclusion of the play shows healing for the particular family, right? Healing of rifts, healing of physical sickness, and that sort of thing. And of course, the music, the selection of music, the mood of the music in this presentation kind of highlight the changes. At one point, the music is very somber. At another point, it is very celebratory, which is the normal flow of the Dugu ceremony as practiced by Garifuna people. So in that sense, the originality of the presentation is kept intact, in that it follows not very strictly, but it follows the pattern of what happens at a Dugu. And of course, the music is original. All the music you hear is original, with the exception of maybe one or two choruses from well-known hymns. The presentation has original music, predominantly original music.
If you say these powers of the celebration so strong, what allow the family suffer the unfortunate circumstances of 3 generations?
Well, part of that, as would be revealed in the story, part of the misfortune in this family is ignorance, and the failure to properly guide offspring and educate them about certain things concerning their minds, things concerning their bodies, things concerning their environment, and how it could affect your existence. And that comes out very clearly, using things that are very, very regular, that we may generally take for granted, and it affects the family because, like I say, that ignorance was not, or let me say that ignorance have been amplified by the lack of proper teaching. So, okay, just one other extension to the Dugu. I mentioned a little earlier that the Dugu is a family celebration, and that only family could attend. Now, my understanding, I've never seen a Dugu except on film, but my understanding of it is that it takes 3 years to organize a Dugu. 3 years. And that is mainly because wherever family is across the world, they have to be involved. It's like us having a regular reunion, and it takes time to contact a relative over there and another one over there, and so on and so on. It takes time to do that. Same thing with the Dugu. And like I say, that ceremony lasts for 7 years, and 7 days. Sorry. There is the religious part of it, where that's the somber part, and then there is the celebratory part of it, to make a whole. And I think the play captures those 2 moods, and among others. And in terms of structure, and who participates, apart from family members, if the family does not have a religious head, let's say a priest or a painter, or, well, that is in our tradition, a pastor or someone like that, then one is appointed from outside the family, and he or she will not be carrying the title of priest or pastor, but within the Garifuna culture, that person is called a buye, B-U-Y-E-I, which is basically the head of a religious order or religious denomination or a spiritual leader. And that is the person who leads the Dugu for the 7 years. For the 7 days in which it flows.
We have any more questions? I'd just like to add maybe 2 things. First is that the building itself for the Dugu is built on that purpose only. Every time you have a Dugu, they build the structure for this Dugu especially, and that's also part of why it takes so long, because sometimes you also need time to build that structure. And the Dugu is usually organized after a call from an ancestor. It's going to be somebody, a member of the family, that's going to receive a call in either a dream or either anywhere, but there's going to be an ancestor, somebody that passed that told them, you need to organize a Dugu. It's going to come from one of them. It's not just something, it comes from an ancestor's call, which means there's something to deal with, but it's something that's called to happen.
How you explain this call?
But I mean, we never really received it ourselves, so we can't really talk about it. But from what I was told, it demonstrates in different ways, but most of the time it comes like in a dream. The person will dream about a grandparents or an uncle or sister, somebody that passed. And that will come and will tell them, we need a ceremony, or look what's happening here. They'll have like, and it's gonna go, they will feel, or sometimes the buye, as the Aki said, those spiritual leaders will feel that but those buye, as he said as well, are usually associated also to a family. Because there's always gonna be one spiritual leader coming up of one family. They will always have one that will hold this role.
To bring the consciousness of this call a little closer to us in St. Vincent, sometimes a person may be going through certain kinds of hardships or certain difficulties, and someone would say to you, but you need to have a praise, or you need to get baptized, as is done in our spiritual Baptist practices. It's a similar kind of feeling, it's a similar kind of process that happens. Except that the person bringing this message, if you could say that, communicate the message to the rest of her family because he or she have had this experience of getting this message through spiritual means. And we know in our regular spiritual journey on a day-to-day basis, we get premonitions and other kinds of spiritual manifestations that lead us to think that, well, I need to do something about where my life is, religiously or spiritually. It's the same process with organizing the movement.
One question. The person looking at the play, how authentic is it when it comes to mirroring the actual real life ceremony, and what was done to ensure that authenticity?
Okay, the music or the mood of the music is one way. Again, the mood of the dances, the rhythms that are being used to present these music. And of course, the two or three well-known hymns or choruses that will be used will help also to set that mood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Those are things that we sing literally every Sunday at the church in St. Vincent. Somebody would be singing that song. You know, take my hands, precious Lord. Those are things that we are accustomed to, and it helps to open up or to get the plot to stick to the authentic mood of the Dugu. Other things happen in Dugu that you will not see on the stage. And remember, at all times, as a theatrical production, producers and directors have artistic license to do things in a particular way. So we don't necessarily have to replicate the authentic Dugu happenings or most of the parts of it. But a representation of it is all that might be needed, because it is art. It is first art, but this art is based on a particular practice. So we gave ourselves the license to present it in a way that an audience could accept it, and without losing the authenticity of what the real practice is. I would venture to say that in St. Vincent, we do not know the Dugu, we know the spiritual Baptists, which is very close to what happens at the Dugu. So we take our guidance from what happens at the spiritual Baptist churches. I myself grew up in a spiritual Baptist congregation, so I have an idea of what those practices are. I make sure that we do not, because in St. Vincent people tend to take things for granted. I take artistic license to make a representation of what the Dugu is, but for fear that if you become too original or too authentic, that people in the audience may feel that you're mocking. And I don't want anybody to leave Peace Memorial Hall on any of those 2 nights with the impression that a mockery is being committed here. I want people to feel comfortable that they are seeing a piece of art that is created around a particular practice. And I am guided by some of the things I've seen in the past, especially concerning the spiritual Baptists. I've seen videos being shot and people presenting Baptists as people who are drunkards, walking spirit. You know, I've seen that, and it turned me off. So I don't think I could come back and make the same mistake as a director in presenting that kind of image. That might be very entertaining for some people in the audience, but how much representation of the facts is presented there? We have to make sure that we properly represent those facts about the process without getting people too deeply into the body of what is happening there. And you will get that from Mali, a proper representation of the past.
Do we have any more questions? Well, I have to say, we have another question? No. I have to say that I know a little bit about the Dougou, and I am really excited to go and see the place. So I'm really hoping that those that don't know much about the Dougou are even more excited to really go and learn and share about this part of Garifuna culture and spirituality. So once again, I am reminding you that the play is held on Saturday, May 4th and Sunday, May 5th at the Peace Memorial Hall. It starts at 7:30 p.m. It's $25 for adults and $15 for children. And you can find tickets at Medix Pharmacy, Lady J, Pismo, or by calling TGHF. And also, the following week, on the 11th, there's also going to be another representation of the show, which will be in favor of Peace Memorial Hall's reparations. So that's going to be on the 11th of May. Thank you very much for your time this morning.